Good morning. Thank you for having me today. I'm Daniel Lewis. I'm the Director of New Media Communications for Sesame Workshop, which is the long and formal way of saying that on Twitter, I'm at Sesame Street. And if you follow us on Twitter, you already know that we don't use it the way that most organizations do. We don't follow anybody. We don't retweet very often. We don't @reply. For the most part, our Twitter stream is filled with short quips from Elmo, Big Bird, Cookie Monster, Grover, Oscar, Ernie, and Bert. And they're just sharing their thoughts and lives on Sesame Street. Sesame Workshop's mission as a not-for-profit is to empower the lives of children, and we're typically talking about very young children, ages 0 through 5, through the power of media and historically television. You probably are more familiar with us from our former name, Children's Television Workshop, and there's a reason why television was in the name originally. Our audience isn't a 20-something who's wed to his or her smartphone. They're not digital, they are digital natives, but not grown up yet. And our core audience can't read, so they're not here at a conference tweeting out a hashtag. They don't have blogs, and they can't accept your friend request, sorry to say. Social media just isn't their playground. So if a 5-year-old isn't on Facebook and toddlers aren't on Twitter, why is Sesame Street? And even though Twitter is a text medium, I figured, we're Sesame Street, very visual brand. Why not start with a video?
If you're aggravated, if you're angry, or just need some advice, maybe you can ask the A-Team.
So last time I showed that, I actually got caught singing along into the microphone, and glad to say I didn't do that this time. So a couple things you probably noticed, right? First, a lot of you laughed when you saw Telly cleaning his gold letter A, right? He's Mr. T in that clip. And obviously the entire thing is a reference to the 1980s TV show, The A-Team. And finally, you probably noticed Ryan Reynolds. They are dressed up as a big letter A. For those of you who don't know who Ryan Reynolds is, he's in the upcoming Green Lantern movie, and People magazine named him the sexiest man alive for whatever that's worth. Probably not that relevant to 5-year-olds, though, so they're not reading that issue. That video, we put it up on YouTube last fall, and in about 2 weeks it did, let's say, 300,000 views. And as a viral video, that's a pretty good success, right? Not a smashing campaign, but pretty good. We're very happy with it. But here's the thing. We never intended for that to be a viral video campaign. That's actually a clip from an episode of Sesame Street, which is airing this season. And if you're tuning in every morning, you probably have seen it. And I have to say, it's like 5 or 6 minutes, and it's excellent. I talk about it all the time. My kids love it. So definitely, if you see it, let me know with a tweet. But I want you to think about that clip again. It is part of our TV show. Think about it from the worldview of a 3-year-old who's watching that show, right? They've never heard of the A-Team. They're just too young. They don't know who Ryan Reynolds is. And unfortunately, they don't even know who Mr. T is. And we'll leave that to you. You need to fix that and get your children knowing who Mr. T is. That's just outside our bailiwick. So they think what's going on here is their favorite Sesame Street friends are just playing a game about the letter A, and there's some guy in the background who's really into it, some stranger to them. For literally 40 years, Sesame Street has written our content for 2 audiences, right? There's children on the one hand and parents as well. And this is by design. While our content is always focused on your children, we're also writing it with you, the grown-ups, in mind. And this is intentional. When parents are involved in their children's educational experiences, the children learn better. Anecdotally, you all know that's true. I'm sure that when you've been engaged with your children or your nieces and nephews or grandchildren, when you're doing it with them, they learn better. And for us at Sesame Workshop, the anecdotes are great, but that's really not enough. We're a research-driven organization. We have an entire department dedicated to educational research and to the effectiveness of our content. Everything is vetted and reviewed to decide if we're going to use it in the future. But this one fact turns up over and over again, and it bears repeating. When parents are engaged with their children's educational experiences, the children learn better. Now, you and I, we're the parents and grandparents of today's and tomorrow's children. So we at Sesame Street, we need to keep you engaged. We need to build on that relationship that we started to form with you 15, 25, and 40 years ago. So how do we do that? We use social media to remind you of the childlike innocence of our characters, the heartfelt, kind, and simple goodness that you all remember. So quick show of hands, how many of you from a few months ago remember our Smell Like a Monster video? It was a spoof of Grover and the Old Spice guy. Okay, well, I'm going to show it again for those who haven't.
Hello, everybody. Look at yourself. Now back to me. Now back at yourself. Now back to me. Sadly, you are not the monster. But if you listen to Grover, you will know all about the word on, just as this monster does. Look down. Back up. Yep. Where am I? Oh, I am on a boat. What is in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It is a clam with 2 tickets to that thing you love. On my nose. Anything is possible when you smell like a monster and know the word on. I am on a horse. Moo cow.
I'll be sure to tell Grover that you all appreciated that. He's very proud of it himself. So when I showed this to my 4-year-old, he laughed just like everybody else did, but he wasn't laughing at the Old Spice joke because he had never seen the original Old Spice ads. But he was still laughing, right? He was laughing at Grover getting a clam stuck on his nose, about Grover discombobulated all of a sudden on a boat, and about Grover on a horse. No, wait, it's a cow. You know, he got all the humor, but he didn't get the reference. Now, for those of us who are not in preschool, you know, whether we're parents or grandparents, babysitters or tweens, obviously we get the reference, so we're laughing at something else. But there's one underlying similarity between us grown-ups and the children, and that's that we're all laughing because it's Grover being Grover, right? Whether you're 5, 15, 20, or 50, you don't see Grover as a puppet or as a brand icon. You see him as a person, and when you get right down to it, you see Grover as your friend. And on Twitter, we're trying to do more of the same. So here's a tweet from Cookie Monster. Yeah. So the responses and replies we get from that, in this case, we got a lot of haikus coming back. But typically, whenever we send out a tweet from a character, the responses are, thank you for being you. I'm such a big fan of Sesame Street, or one of my favorites is, I know I'm an adult, but Sesame Street has my favorite tweets, or simply, I love you, Sesame. All these are very common, and people really are reaching out to the characters and engaging with them and talking to them. And it's a really, really surreal experience because, in general, we're not 5 years old on Twitter. We're, 15 to, upward. The most telling reply, though, and many of you probably experienced this a moment ago, when you read the tweet from Cookie Monster, it wasn't your voice in your head, but it was Cookie Monster's. And don't worry, you're not alone if you did that. In fact, we get that reply pretty often as well. So we thought we'd have a little fun with it. And we said, hey, Cookie Monster, can you come back and we'll put a camera in front of you and you can just save some of your tweets into the camera so we can share them on, share that love on Facebook, on Tumblr, and everywhere else. And in fact, before I go, I'd like to share that with you right now.
Cookie haiku. Cookie cookie cook. Cookie 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 cook. Cookie cookie cook. Me love poetry.
Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the conference.
Before you go. So, for 1 minute, what happened? Last year there was a Cookie Monster campaign to get him on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah,
what happened?
So last November around Thanksgiving, Cookie Monster put up an audition tape to get onto Saturday Night Live. It's still on YouTube if you want to go watch. It's about 4 or 5 minutes long.
Did he make it?
He did make it. He appeared around the Christmas episode with Jeff Bridges in the opening monologue. And, he's moving on up in the world. So we're very proud of him.
Yay. Thank you, sir.
Thank
really.
you. Pleasure.